by giving all praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, and the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders of GMS who taught us this truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, which would be the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel according to scripture and prophecy. But the elect will be 1/3 of the Israelites who in the last days will return back to the Most High to receive salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't turn back to the Most High in time be destroyed with America. We back with a lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. The lesson is going to be titled, You So-Called Blacks About to Be Aggressively Policed, Imprisoned, and Deported. You so-called blacks about to be aggressively policed, imprisoned, and deported. And that goes, for all of us that are of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And that's what it's trending towards. He's making his way to us now, the so-called blacks, which will make up the southern kingdom of Israel. Started with the northern kingdom, so-called Mexicans, Guatemalans, Venezuelans, etc. Why? Because this is a war against the 12 tribes of Israel. And what they want to do is deport us out of America or throw us into these concentration camps, which they call detention centers, or just straight up exterminate us, which really that's the ultimate goal is to exterminate the 12 tribes of Israel, but they got to do it through gradualism. So the easiest or the first step in that process is to get us off the streets, either get us out of the country or throw us in one of these concentration camps. And legally, Trump can't do that, but he's going to do it through various methods. Everything is going to be a process. And that process started with him cracking down on the so called Mexicans, the Northern Kingdom, the so called Mexicans, and the other Israelites that come from Central and South America, like the Guatemalans, the Venezuelans. And how did he come after them? Well, at the start of the year, he said he will go after undocumented nationals, like from China, the Middle East, etc., after undocumented criminals. Well, when he started deporting people, he didn't do none of that. He came after the Northern Kingdom, so-called Mexicans, Venezuelans, etc., and started aggressively pursuing and deporting so-called Mexicans, and not just the criminals. He broke up families, he snatched up children, women, elderly, working people, snatched them out of schools, out of work, out of the strawberry fields. Why? Because this is a war against the 12 tribes. So again, the process of getting the 12 tribes of Israel out of America, he started with the undocumented so-called Mexicans, etc. Then from there, they said they would make denaturalization a top priority. Naturalization is when non American citizens come to America and through hard work they obtain U.S. citizenship. All races, all nations of people do it: Chinese, Arabs, Mexicans, etc. But he said he wanted to denaturalize these people, meaning strip away their citizenship. Now, when he said that, he wasn't talking about so called Chinese, East Indians, Arabs, but he was talking about those of the 12 tribes. You so called Mexicans, Guatemalans that come over here and get citizenship. he want to strip you of that through various methods, finding you guilty of certain petty crimes to strip you of your citizenship, which he said he's going to make that a top priority. So then he can imprison you in these FEMA death camps or deport you. So the next step in the process that we see now is they want to come after actual U.S. citizens. So it started with the undocumented non-U.S. citizens. Then it went to non-U.S. citizens who obtained citizenship. Now he wants to go after actual U.S. citizens, which would be you so-called blacks, so-called Negroes, African Americans. And with that, you can throw in the so-called Native Americans who were here before all of us. Because the so-called Native Americans, so-called African Americans, we have citizenship here through birthright citizenship. And what he wants to do is find a way around that to strip us of our citizenship, to deport us, or throw us in these FEMA death camps, or, kill us somewhere in secret. Now, he can't just outright deport, you so called Negroes, African Americans, but through various methods and executive orders and tweaking the laws a little bit, he can deport us. So, we're going to start with a video to go more into this process of how so called Negroes about to start being deported, like you some undocumented criminals. And see, you had a lot of you so-called Negroes, so-called African Americans, pointing the finger, laughing at the Northern Kingdom, laughing at your Northern Kingdom brothers and sisters. You was bucked up in pride, thinking you can't be touched. Yeah, you was born here. You got rights here. We never had no rights here. And you about to find that out. And GMS been saying this, the Northern Kingdom get it first, so-called Mexicans, etc. But the Southern Kingdom, you're gonna get it worse. That's why you see this heavy military presence being dispatched throughout America. That's for you so-called blacks. That's what y'all about to have to deal with. On top of dealing with ICE, on top of dealing with different law enforcement agencies. So let's start with this first video. Um, and you see the title, Trump makes appeal to black voters in Detroit. Now listen to what Trump is about to say.
Taking away your jobs. We'll bring back public safety and defend our communities for law-abiding American citizens. We need, look, the crime is most rampant right here and in African American communities. And
you heard him. He said crime is most rampant in African American communities. Again, crime is most rampant among you so-called blacks, you so-called Negroes. So he's doing what? He's making you the face of crime and criminal activity. So now from here on out, when you hear him say that word criminal, we got one of these executive orders that we're going to read up on. When you see the word criminal in that executive order, when we read it, now you know who he's talking about. Because again, he said, you so called blacks, crime is most rampant amongst our community. And you could take that word community and replace it with people. Because it's not the communities, it's the people. Yeah, a lot of our people are wicked, our people do a lot of crime. But when you look at the statistics, the white man does way more crime. The only crime so called black people lead in is theft and robbery. Why? Because we are poor, needy people. And that's according to the curses of Deuteronomy. But again, let's take this back so we can hear this one more time.
and defend our communities for law-abiding American citizens. We need, look, the crime is most rampant right here and in African American communities.
He said you so-called African Americans are the criminals, the true criminals here in America. Take community, replace it with people. Take African American and replace it with criminals. So just like with the Northern Kingdom, he said there was Venezuelan gangs, Guatemalan gangs, South American, Central American gangs, Mexican cartels over here having trap houses, doing drive-bys, stabbing people, taking women and getting away with it. Well, where they at now? Because if there was that big of a problem, there's no way he got them out of the country already. Would it seem like the so-called Venezuelans and so-called Mexican criminals are no longer a problem, showing you that they never was really a problem like Trump made it out to be. He had to make them public enemy. He had to make them the face of criminal activity here in America to justify himself in deporting them wrongfully. He's doing the same thing to us now. He's making us the face of crime and criminal activity here in America, which again, a lot of our people are wicked. And I agree. Those of our people that are wicked, deport them, get them out of here. But the thing is, like with the so-called Mexicans at the beginning of the year, he's saying now he's going to come after African American criminals. He didn't do that with the Mexicans. He said he would go after undocumented criminals. He went after working people with families, wives, children, elderly, snatched people out of school, on a job. So he's saying he's going to come after so called black criminals and so called black communities, but we know they're not going to stop there. They're going to go after working so called black people, people in school, snatching people off of their jobs, stopping people in traffic and snatch them up out of their vehicles. That's what he's going to do. He always say he's going to get the criminals, but it'd be bigger than that. He go after normal people. So let's see what else he say.
More people see me and they say, "Sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get robbed and mugged and beat up or killed because we want to walk across the street to buy a loaf of bread." They want it so badly. The fake news doesn't talk about it. But the black population wants law enforcement more than any other population. So
you see that? We the people who want law enforcement the least. Amongst the black community, we say we don't need law enforcement. We want to get the communities together to crack down against crime. Now it never work, and that's ultimately because of the curses. But our people never called for more law enforcement. Law enforcement never been on our side. Always been against us. So he lying right there. But again, it's to justify himself ultimately in sending the military to a prison, deport you, and kill you. Yeah, to start killing you so-called blacks. Don't forget about the bodies that washed up overseas, so-called Mexicans, that was shackled in zip ties. Don't forget about alligator Alcatraz, that they want to feed the alligators 69 million people, which just so happened to be the population of the Northern Kingdom here in America. But let's continue.
I think it's an important thing to say. And I'll keep the radical left wing gender ideology away from our youth. Gender ideology.
Okay, so I think he's done there. Okay, so he's done there. So we gonna jump over here to the left. We gonna get the book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 19. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, thy tongue frame of deceit. So what? he's speaking, but he's lying to you. He's telling you indirectly the evil that he's about to bring upon our people. And again, hey, 2/3 of our people do need it. A lot of our people need to be imprisoned, deported, or exterminated. They're no good, hey, to the community. They serve no purpose. But again, he's not going to go after just them. He's about to come after all of us. So he's telling you the evil that he's about to do indirectly. Thy tongue frame of deceit. So yeah, it goes on to say, thou sittest and speakest against thy brother, whose is concerning Jacob and Esau. Esau will be the so-called white people today. And they constantly speak against their brother Jacob, which should be the 12 tribes. Thou slanderest thy own mother's son. He always slandering us to make us the face of whatever problem so they can bring a solution. And that solution just so happened to be a way to further oppress our people, to systematically kill our people. For example, 2020, 2021, we was the face of the COVID-19. They said it was heavy in the African American and Hispanic communities, and they got to give us the hokey pokey first. Now look what happened to the people that untook it, and it ain't finished. A lot more people gonna die because of that. Start of the year, they told you so-called Venezuelan gang lords, so-called Mexican cartels, was taking over Chicago, taking over Aurora, Colorado. They was taking over apartment complexes and entire communities. Well, where they at? Made them the face or the face um of they pretty much made them out to be a crisis here in America. That's them slandering us as they always do. And to slander means to falsely accuse. They take things that we are guilty of and exaggerate it, blow it all out of proportion, or they just may straight up lie altogether. They twist numbers, statistics, facts. Now he's saying that we the face of crime here in America. That crime is most rampant amongst our people, saying we do most of the crime here in America. That's him slandering us once again, speaking against and slandering his brother Jacob. Why? So they can find a way to further oppress us, ultimately to kill us, because that's the goal. And we gonna get this in the book of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. So never trust your enemy. Who is your enemy? Look at history. Who's your enemy? Look at what they presently doing to us. And for those with the true understanding, we can look at prophecy to see what they're going to do to us in the future. The same people that put us on slave ships, same people that's shooting us down in the streets, same people that's killing our women and children in the hospitals, same people gonna be trying to microchip us. That's your enemy. Esau Edom, the so-called white man, never trust them. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Hey, when that rust start, it get worse and worse and worse. It never goes away, never turns back. You think a piece of iron ain't gonna rust? No, that rust gonna show itself one day. Esau Edom, the white man, wickedness is gonna show eventually. And then we see as the story unfolds, it get worse and worse and worse. You thought he was gonna stop with undocumented criminals. This devil going after entire families. You thought it was gonna stop with just non-U.S. citizens. Well, he want to strip you naturalized Americans of your citizenship for petty crimes. You thought it was gonna stop with people who travel here from other countries. Now he's going after you so-called blacks, of people that was born here, and that includes you Native Americans who was here first. So, like as iron rough, so is his wickedness. His wickedness getting worse and worse. He started talking about El Salvador, Guantanamo Bay, Alcatraz reopening. Then he came up with alligator Alcatraz. Then he said there's going to be more of them throughout America. Now you got more detention centers popping up throughout America. So, like as Iron Russell shows his wickedness, then bodies started washing up. So the story get worse and worse as it unfolds. Just as a piece of iron, when it starts to rust, it get worse and worse. So never trust your enemy. He told you that he's gonna come police our communities, but it's not about policing our people. It's not about getting the criminals off the street. It's about trying to get rid of the so-called African Americans, rather by deporting us, throwing us in detention centers, or killing us off. Which the goal has always been to cut off Israel. And then when you come down here to verse 16, an enemy speak us. Am I getting? Make sure I ain't getting ahead of myself real quick. Yeah, an enemy, Esau, even the white man, speak of sweetly with his lips. And you heard what he said. He got black people talk about, please come to our community. We need help. And just recently, he said, it's black women, beautiful black women, all over Chicago asking him to come police Chicago. And I saw a clip, you know, it was two black women, but not a lot of people. Hey, most people don't want nothing to do with what Trump is doing. But again, the enemy speak of sweetie with his lips. He tell you he's going to clean up crime, make the streets safe again. He's going to do away with everything that's a threat to the American people. That's him speaking sweet with his lips. It says, but in his heart, he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. So ultimately, he's trying to figure out how to get our people into these detention centers so he can kill us off, so he can experiment on us, torture us, so you get that microchip in us. Or he's trying to figure out how to get you into a cargo plane so he can throw you up out of that somewhere in the middle of the damn ocean. It says he will weep with his eyes, but if he find an opportunity, he would not be satisfied with blood. See that? But yeah, enemy speak a sweetie with his lips. He's gonna talk a good game like he's doing something for the people, like he's for the people. Now he's acting like he's for our people. Yep. Like man, what do he say? Let's go back.
African American communities, and more people see me and they say, "Sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get robbed and mugged and beat up or killed because we want to walk across the street to buy a loaf of bread." They want it so badly. The fake news doesn't talk about it, but the
Yeah, it said don't want to get robbed and killed and stabbed for getting a piece of bread. He's talking about you so-called blacks. And again, the enemy speak a sweetie with his lips.
population wants law enforcement more than any other population.
You hear
So
that?
I think it so badly. The fake news doesn't talk about it, but the black population wants law enforcement more than any other population. So,
See that? Enemy speak a sweetie with his lips, but in his heart, he imagined if I'd throw thee into a pit. You see that? Psalms 50:19, thou givest thy mouth to evil, thy tongue frameth deceit. He lying to you. But we're gonna get on to the next video. And it says the title, Trump says he supports deporting US citizens. So if you didn't think it was possible, it's possible. Because I've seen plenty of videos, you so-called blacks pointing the finger at the so-called Mexicans and the Northern Kingdom in general, again, for the pride, laughing at them like you safe. Like, yeah, like you belong here, like you got rights here, like you own the place. You got no more rights than they got. And keep in mind, he went after the so-called Mexicans, the Northern Kingdom first. That don't mean he likes you blacks more than he likes so-called Mexicans. No, actually, he hates you so-called Negroes more than he hates the so-called Mexicans. So it's only a matter of time, and you about to see how they really feel about you. How they came after the Northern Kingdom, they about to come after the Southern Kingdom way worse. So let's get this.
We also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways that.
You heard that word criminal. He said you got homegrown criminals. Then we got the first video. He said crime is most rampant amongst African American communities. Take community, replace it with people. Crime is most rampant amongst African Americans. So when they say criminal, he's speaking about you so-called Negroes, you so-called blacks. Let's start that back from the top.
We also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat.
He's speaking in code. When he say criminals, speaking about you so-called blacks.
They're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
See that? He said homegrown criminals. He said to get them out of the country. Homegrown, meaning you were born here. Birthright citizenship applies to you. He's speaking to you so-called African Americans.
You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
See that? So he said pretty much you're talking about deporting not foreigners but naturalized Americans and American citizens. Take that back a little bit.
Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What do you think? There's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it because we can.
Yeah, so it pretty much said, homegrown criminals, if they violent, they can be deported. So our people that's guilty, got a violent criminal history, okay, get them out of here. That's cool. Do whatever you want to do with them. But just like the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Mexicans, it didn't stop with undocumented criminals. He went in after all of them, entire families, working people, people in school, people in nursing homes, people grocery shopping. And that's going to be the case with us. So we got another video real quick. And you see the title? Trump confirms he wants to deport American citizens. What this means for black people, question mark. So again, when they speak about deporting American citizens, he's only talking about you so-called black Americans. He's not talking about the Chinese, East Indians, Arabs, Africans, Ukrainians, the Russians, Australians. He ain't went after none of them yet. You should see the trend. It only makes sense. This is a war against the 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and that's why I got this screenshot. So-called white dude put this together. It's a spirit. So-called Latinos, Native Americans, and African Americans, the 12 tribes of Israel. And what it say? Trump's war on brown-skinned people aims to end birthright citizenship. And see that? A war against the 12 tribes. If we gonna get that scripture, I think towards the end of it, he shall make war with the remnant of her seed. But let's get this video real quick.
The ideal of deporting American citizens. He said it himself. So let's watch that clip.
But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time.
He gonna talk fast. He said there's a lot of bad people that's been here for a long time. Key words, been here for a long time. This is not talking about undocumented immigrants coming from South, Central America, and Mexico. He's talking about you so-called black Americans that were born here.
People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of
See that? They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. And check this out.
born in our country. I think
He said many of them were born in our country. That's you black American citizens. And let me go back a little bit. And I'm going to stop moving it. Fuck it.
Clip.
But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth?
He said people that was born here got to get out of here. Who do you think he's talking about? Talking about you so-called black Americans. So y'all not safe. Y'all done got no more rights than the so-called Mexicans that he's deporting. He don't favor you so-called blacks over, the Mexicans that he's deporting. In fact, they hate you more. The world hates you more.
So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together.
And they working on it now. That's why you got this heavy police and military presence in these bigger cities, which we primarily located in these bigger cities in the inner cities. Just so happened, Baltimore, D.C., New York City, Oakland, just so happen to be predominantly black cities with black mayors. So it's obvious who he's coming after.
But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York. They're not accidents.
He said he wants to send a National Guard to New York. This is an old video. They acting on it now.
It was done very much in purpose. People being pushed into a subway just before it arrives, going 40 miles an hour. And they're 10 feet away from where the thing is. You get pushed right into the face of the subway train, get whacked and killed. These are sick people. I'd like to get them out of here too.
Sick people. He's talking about you so-called black Americans.
Now notice.
Okay, so that's that. Now we gonna get a few more precepts. We gonna get the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And what this screenshot say? Trump's war on brown people. And how does the war begin? Again, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. So he's going to make us out to be the problem. Rather, it's a immigrant crisis or, a crisis with criminal activity in America. He's going to speak smooth words to say how he's going to save America, make it safe. He's going to do it for the people. But really, war is in his heart. That's why he goes on to say his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. A sword has a target. You have to point it at somebody. A sword is directed at somebody. And that's the case with everything Trump has been saying. He say sick people, monsters, criminals. He not just generally speaking. No, those words are directed at somebody. That's why it says his words were softer than oil. They sound good. They sound sweet. Yet were they drawn swords. Everything he say, these executive orders, these House bills, he has a people in mind that he's going to target and come after. Which you see who he been coming after the whole year. So we gonna get some of this executive order real quick. Lord, when this computer don't die. So it says, what is this called? Executive orders. This is from April 28th, 2025. Strengthening and unleashing. See that word, unleashing? What does scripture say? He gonna come down with great wrath. America's law enforcement to pursue criminals. We can take this word criminals and replace it with black Americans. Because what did he say? crime is most rampant amongst our people, pretty much calling us, making us the face of criminal activity here in America and protect innocent citizens. He ain't did that yet. But let me see. Purpose and policy. Safe communities rely on the backbone and heroism of a tough and well-equipped police force. My administration is steadfastly committed to empowering state and local law enforcement to firmly police dangerous criminal Black American behavior and protect innocent citizens. And we see that state and local law enforcement is being empowered right now. They being backed with the National Guard. They being federalized to be under direct orders of the president. They're being militarized. My administration will therefore establish best practices at the state and local level for cities to unleash high impact local police forces, protect and defend law enforcement officers wrongly accused and abused by state and local officials. My administration will work to ensure that law enforcement officers across America focus on ending crime, not pursuing harmful, illegal, race, and sex based equity policies. So that cry about racism, discrimination, and harassment against certain groups of people, Trump not going to entertain none of that. No, they going to do as they feel. So as we get some of this, what do we got here? Okay, Section 2, legal defense of law enforcement officers. So this is dealing with the legal defense of law enforcement officers. It says to create a mechanism to provide legal resources and indemnification to law enforcement officers who unjustly incur expenses and liabilities for actions taken during the performance of their official duties to enforce the law. So pretty much there's no more suing a police against police brutality. Um, you get shot, killed by the police. So you try to sue them, have them arrested, you try to pursue them under the law. No, Trump said these police officers, and as they're unleashed, they're going to have legal defense, they're going to have help. So moving on, empowering state and local law enforcement. It goes on to say the Attorney General and other appropriate heads of executive departments and agencies shall take all appropriate action to maximize the use of federal resources, to provide new practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes. And what communities is he talking about? Let's go back to the video to see what community he's talking about.
Public safety and defend our communities for law-abiding American citizens. We need, look, the crime is most rampant right here and in African American communities, and more people see me and they say, sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get...
You see that, you read that, you heard that. Provide best practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities, meaning black communities, against all crimes, because he said crime is most rampant in our communities. It's talking about provide extra training to state and local law enforcement, increase pay and benefits for law enforcement officers. You see, ICE is getting a $50,000 sign-on bonus and $50,000 to $80,000 per year to work for ICE. But law enforcement, they will get a pay increase as well. To strengthen and expand legal protections for law enforcement officers. So if a police officer wrongfully search you, harass you, brutalize you wrongfully, he's no more trying to get him fired, him being on paid leave, you sue him, his badge gets taken away, he gets dismissed. Could be no more of that. Promote investment in the security and capacity of prisons. So they want to promote or increase the capacity of prisons. Why? Because they plan on throwing you so-called black Americans in there in mass number. And they already increasing the capacity of these prisons. That's why all these detention centers is being built all around America. And you wouldn't know that. But yeah, we did the lesson on it. They got ICE got, I believe, $45 billion to build these detention centers all over America. Who they gonna put in it? Not just the so-called Mexicans and Venezuelans, you so-called Black Americans as well. The same people you was laughing at and pointing the finger at, your brothers and sisters, you gonna be in them detention centers with them. Within 90 days of the date of this order. What was the date? April 28th. It said within 90 days of this order, or 3 months. So from April, you got May, June, July. It says Secretary of Defense in consultation with Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. So in fewer words, that they would back up local law enforcement with military and national security assets. That's why the National Guard is being deployed throughout America. That's why they being deployed in their military gear with their military vehicles. So this is already happening. But it says to increase the provision of excess military and national security assets. The national security is being deployed. The military is next. They just need the right crisis or right event, right scenario to justify them sending in the military full force. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General shall determine how military and national security assets and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. Let's see. Holding state and local officials accountable. It says willfully and unlawfully direct the obstruction of criminal law, including by directly or unlawfully prohibiting law enforcement officers from carrying out duties necessary for public safety and law enforcement, or unlawfully engage in discrimination or civil rights violations against the guise of DEI initiatives that restrict law enforcement activity or endanger citizens. So pretty much saying, your mayor, your state governors, your local officials, even regular people, if they obstruct, get in the way of ICE, local law enforcement, National Guard, if they get in the way of them from doing their duty, rather you physically in the way, or what it say, unlawfully engage in discrimination and civil rights violation, or if you try to come at them and sue them, that you're going to be prosecuted for getting in the way. It says the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security shall utilize Homeland Security Task Force. So you're going to have law enforcement military agencies deployed all throughout the country. And that was pretty much that. So pretty much, in summary, they want to aggressively police our communities. They're going to provide access, national and military assets to aggressively police Black American communities. Now, with all that being said, we're going to get this video right here real quick. We played this yesterday, but we're going to get it again.
We have major breaking news right now. More than 1,700 members of the National Guard are preparing to mobilize to go to 19 states across the United States of America, according to...
So they being deployed to go throughout America. Now you know where they going. Now you know who they coming after. So let's continue.
Fox News latest reporting, they will be mobilized to help with deportations and to fight crime.
So to help with deportations, so they're going to continue cracking down against so-called Mexicans, you know, the Kingdomers. And to crack down on crime, he said crime is most rampant amongst our community, amongst our people. So crime is a code word for you so-called Black Americans.
President Trump is doing something no president in American history has ever done before. He is personally joining the National Guard troops and police officers on patrol through the streets of Washington, D.C. We're talking about armored vehicles, our military personnel, and the commander-in-chief leading from the absolute front lines. But here's what makes this even...
The National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we have...
See that? So that's pretty much the executive order. Pretty much he would join the National Guard in the military with law enforcement. This is already happening. It's playing out now. He said they're doing a wonderful job. You know, the military's not there yet, but the National Guard is.
I had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And
see that? He said, you know, they didn't have to bring in the regular military, but they're willing to do that.
After we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make...
See that? He said, you know, after they go to D.C., after they go to Chicago, they're going to go elsewhere in the country and make that safe. So in other words, he's going to go to so-called Black American communities all over the country. Now we're going to get this book of Revelation. So in 17, the dragon who was Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Because why is he talking about the National Guard? Why is he talking about bringing the military? The military is used for war. So who's the dragon going to make war with? He's going to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High, of the testimony of Yahweh. So ultimately, he wants to come after us that got this truth. But like a snake, he's slithering closer and closer toward us. Started with the undocumented Mexicans, then the naturalized Mexicans. Now he's saying so-called Black American criminals. But he's making his way toward us. So ultimately, it's us we want that got this truth. We the prize. But he's finally coming after Black American citizens.
I had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also.
See, say after bringing the military, if they have to, which they will, he said they're going to go to another location. That's why it says 2 Ezra 16 and 70, for this should be in every place. Trump is about to unleash the National Guard and the military everywhere, in every place, and in the next cities. They're already talking about the next cities and the next states they want to go to. They're going to 19 additional states, but after that, they're going to go elsewhere. For it should be in every place and in the next city a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. And that's the 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who was commanded to fear the Lord. They said they should be like madmen sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Yep, in this executive order, it says provide new best practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes. In other words, to aggressively police our people. That's why it says they should be like madman sparing none. That's why also when you come down here, it says to strengthen and expand legal protections for law enforcement officers. So law enforcement, ICE, National Guard, military, they're going to be like madman sparing none. Meaning they're going to have no mercy on what they do to our people. And America knows that are people like to pull the race card. They like to scream discrimination. That's racist. They already preparing for that. And if you do try to pull that, it's already written in here that they're gonna charge you with obstruction of law enforcement duties. So instead of the officers who's having no mercy going in jail, you who's screaming discrimination, you're gonna be thrown in jail. That's to be like man sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Yeah, they're gonna have no mercy, so Trump is gonna give them added legal protection to do as they please. Since for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, law enforcement gonna be doing that too. Not just hungry people in the famine, not just American criminals. No, law enforcement gonna be wasting your houses and taking your goods. They're gonna be doing that too. Let's continue a little more in this video.
Make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has authorized the nearly 2,000 National Guard troops patrolling the streets of D.C. that they can now carry weapons. And we're also learning more numbers about the arrests that were made overnight. So far, 7.
If you heard that, they can now carry weapons. Again, they can now carry weapons. Who are those weapons for?
119 arrests have been made. 300 of those are alleged illegal immigrants. This is all from numbers we're getting from the White House. The president speaking Friday, not providing a timeline on how long these National Guard troops will stay in our nation's capital.
We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you.
See that? He said they lethal and that it would be wise for you to avoid if you know what's good for you.
He was going.
So I says they should be like madman sparing none. That's why Trump gave them added legal protections. They're gonna have no mercy on you. You thought they was aggressively imprisoning and deporting so-called Mexicans. You ain't seen aggressive yet. You ain't seen ICE get aggressive yet. You ain't seen the military and the National Guard get aggressive against the U.S. people, which the word aggressive is in the executive order to aggressively police so-called black people and so-called Mexicans. You know, the 12 tribes of Israel. But let's continue.
Guys, I'm on the ground right here in MacArthur Park.
Where I come from to get
Where you
here
can see
today.
troops
What changed me?
and law enforcement.
I had to be.
I mean, there is a heavy presence here.
Hey, move me, son! Bro.
What you see, this is for you so-called black Americans. This is how they gonna deport you and imprison you and police you. They going to other cities and other states next. Again, that's why it says there should be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. Now we're gonna get this in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 21 in the NLT. We're gonna start at verse 14. So, hey, military, National Guard, they getting ready. Son of man, prophesying to them and clap your hands. Then take the sword and brandish it twice, even 3 times, to symbolize the great massacre. So it's about to be a great massacre on our people. What else do you need the military for? And a military to that capacity. Military vehicle after military vehicle. Hey, thousands of National Guard being deployed across the U.S. And then eventually gonna call in the military who's gonna come full force. This great slaughter gonna take place right here in America. This is for the American people, the American citizens. And when I say American citizens, talking about you so-called Black Americans, you so-called Mexican Americans, etc. This is not about a foreign threat, about terrorists from the Middle East, Chinese people who trying to secretly invade. This is a great massacre that's going to happen to the American people, in particular the 12 tribes. Even 3 times to symbolize the great massacre facing them on every side. See that? On every side, all throughout America. That's why we got 2nd Ezra's 16 and 70. For this should be in every place. And in the next cities, a great insurrection or a great massacre. Found those that fear the Lord. And how we know it's going to be a massacre? Because Trump is giving them expanded legal protections. So they can kill our people and going to face no legal troubles. But they're going to be protected under this House bill. Let their hearts melt with terror. That's happening with the Northern Kingdom right now. They were so much in fear, they stopped going to work. They disappeared. But this going to happen to you so-called Black Americans when you see what this is really about. Your heart's going to melt with terror. For the sword glitters at every gate. Gate represents the city, the community. What's that glittering sword? Let's keep reading to find out. It flashes like lightning. That's that firepower. Automatic weapons. High caliber machine guns. Tanks. Rocket launchers. Grenade launchers. It flashes like lightning when you fire it. And it's polished for slaughter. And again, this ain't for no foreign threat. No Middle Eastern terrorists. This is for you 12 tribes, especially you so-called Black Americans. Old sword, slash to the right. That's that firepower. Slash to the right, then slash to the left, whatever you will, wherever you want. So, hey, they're going to come down with great wrath and let loose on the 12 tribes of Israel, having no mercy. That's what this is about. And this is why we're going to need the protection of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. You can't outgun Esau. You can't have a shootout with the military. The only way out through this is through Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. That's what we're going to need. That's what we're going to call on. So that's the lesson. So-called blacks about to be aggressively policed, imprisoned, and deported. Everything that you've seen happening to the Northern Kingdom about to happen to the Southern Kingdom, even worse. And it's not going to stop there. You know, you're going to find out that people are going to be tortured, experimented on, microchipped. That's why the Lord said judgment must begin at the house of the Lord. So ultimately, this is judgment coming on our people because we here at the end during the time of judgment. So Lord willing, that was informative, edifying. Till next time, Shalom.